somehow, after 2 years of some of you MFers playing this build, still hasn't gotten nerfed. They buffed it with Vaal Reap. They literally buffed CM Champion.
Yo guys, we're here.
And with this new set,
once every few years, whenever I want to.
one sec. I think my cat's at the door. If you're looking for a build that goes into maps, shoots a wand out, and all the monsters die, this is your build. You could take your chances with an elemental bow build, okay? Lightning arrow looks pretty snazzy. Maybe you want to try your hand at Venom Gyre Deadeye. You're not that guy, okay? You're not Kobe. Your Venom Gyre is not gonna look like that, okay? If you're the kind of guy, you want to take a map, put it in the map device, you activate it, you go in there, and you kill monsters, this is your build. If you want a fast, tanky, easy play style with room to improve damage. Speaking of which, Vaal Reap just got introduced. Rue 2's Corrupting Fever Champion. An absolute map blaster. Not gonna lie, dude, this build's looking better than ever with that Vaal Reap and everything. With Vaal Reap helping your damage out early on when you need it most. Now, you're gonna have a map blaster that's fast, easy to play, it's tanky, and you'll have enough damage to be comfortable. You're not gonna be killing that map boss super quick, okay? But come on, you can't have it all, right? Deal with a little low damage, bunker down, purchase some upgrades, right? Do some legions, do some expedition, kill some essences. These are all things that can be done in white, yellow, and early red maps. Upgrading your build while you're clearing your atlas, and then you'll have enough upgrades where you can just smooth on sail right into T16s. But yeah, that's the one thing, right? That's one thing everybody says. You can't fucking talk about this build anywhere without someone saying, but the damage, the bosses, they're taking half the map. Yeah, all right. Here, guys, if you're playing this build and you rush all the way to red maps, your damage is going to be bad, okay? Just chill out. Farm yellow maps for like 2 or 3 hours on league start. I'm not saying sit in yellow maps for like the first 4 days or something crazy. Bro, all you do while you're clearing your atlas, right? If you feel your damage falling off a little bit, you just chill right there. You don't try to push it for, what are you doing, right? You don't got enough damage yet. Just chillax for a little bit. Buy your cluster, buy some rare jewels, get a wand upgrade, vulnerability on your helmet, malevolence effect on your body armor, +1 fizz skill shield, get your gems leveled up, farm it out, and make sure you got a Vaal Reap, and you should be fine. It should be fine. And then you're good. Then you got a map blaster that has enough damage to do your red maps, okay? But if that sounds too complicated, don't worry, okay? Go check out the other build guides. You need enough damage, I got Mob Mischief. Maxroll, that's the next video. Cold Dot, that's got enough, okay? You don't really got to do anything, you just have some buttons that you press. This new setup, I mean, if you played this last league, you might remember, instead of using Determination, we had it set up where you just had a bunch of endurance charges and physical damage mitigation from stuff like adrenaline. And that worked pretty well. But now Molten Shell got a little bit of a nerve. You're gonna need a lot more armor to kind of boost that up. And they added some pretty good new masteries to the tree. You seen those armor and ES masteries? Magic Finder's pretty much giving us Juggernaut's armor against Ellie damage. Can you believe that? 10% of armor works against chaos damage. This build's already going Divine Flesh. So 10% of your armor is working against half that Ellie damage that was converted to chaos. We also got 10 fizz taken as chaos. Yeah, suffice to say, this build's tanky. This build's tanky as hell. You got leech, you got insane mitigation now. Got enough evasion rating, okay? You got enough. You're champ with Fortify. You're a kinetic blast clear character. Like, this is probably the best state the build's ever been in. And then they added cute little Vaal Reap just for you. I swear, man, some of these GGG things, we got the cat div cards. We got a Vaal Reap this league. Do we have an inside cat W spammer over at Grinding Gear? I mean, 9 lives added to Witch. It's looking a little sus. So whoever that is, please keep buffing Corrupting Fever Champion. It doesn't need it, but goddamn do we love it. Yeah, one last cool thing. This jewel's insane, okay? Energized armor, holy moly. Bro, Templar gives so much armor now. Oh my god. That plus champion aura effect, getting it on your body armor from your ascendancy on the tree. Ah, shit, I forgot to put my glasses on at the start of the video. Suppose you could see some of the despair. Yeah, when you league start this, you're leveling it exactly the same as you did before. We're using steel skills until Helix, and Helix until BA. Somewhere around Act 9 Blood Aqueducts, you're gonna swap to Corrupting Fever. Now please, for the love of God and my sanity, Okay, I will lose it. I will go fucking insane. Do not try to swap to this with like level 4 gems, okay? You need to have been leveling your fucking gems before you hit BA. You need to keep an eye out for links and socket colors before BA. If you reach Blood Aqueducts and you have underlevel gems and your links aren't set up, just don't swap. Stay Helix for a little bit longer, okay, buddy? It'll be all right. But if you try to swap to this build with like level 5 Corrupting Fever and a level 6 Reap or something, like, dude, it's gonna feel bad. Yeah, no. And then I ask you, what level are your gems? Because that sounds crazy. That wasn't my experience. And then you look at your gems and you say, well, it's level 4. It shouldn't make that big of a difference. It's only a 12 level difference. Okay, don't be that guy. Please, don't be that guy. Anyways, what was I saying? I'm already going insane. Blood Aqueducts. You got PP and you've got no PP. PP is Poet's Pen. Poet's Pen is amazing. Poet's Pen is so good for the build. It makes it so you only have to press one button. You're just kinetic blasting. Without that, you have to self-cast your Reap, which is fine, right? But Poet's Pen is just better, right? It's way better early map. Eventually, you will go back to just self-casting your Reap, but that's only once you have a self-crafted wand and a bunch of other upgrades to make it so that while you're mapping, you only ever have to cast your Corrupting Fever and use your right click. And the CF damage alone will be good enough to do all of your map clearing, including the rare monsters. But until that point, PP is amazing because you're going to be linking Exsanguinate to this. You're going to be linking Reap to it, and it's going to easily get 10 Corrupting Fever stacks off on bosses without PP. You will have to do the no PP setup, which is fine because you're in white maps. I don't think I bought my Poet's Pen until like tier 11 maps last league. The no PP setup requires you to self-cast a Reap and a Vaal Reap. Keep that in mind. Poet's Pen still has to self-cast Vaal Reap as well. That does not get triggered. And you're going to have to put a Storm Brand on the boss, okay? The Storm Brand keeps triggering on the boss so that you have 10 Corrupting Fever stacks up because you do not have enough cast speed on Reap to hit 10 Corrupting Fever stacks. So your damage would be even worse if you don't put the Storm Brand on there. Pretty easy though. Then once you get PP, you're kind of just blasting, right? If you feel your damage is a little bit low, go back a few tiers of maps. Farm out for a couple hours, and now you're blasting. It's pretty easy. Yeah, just don't try to force the damage, all right? With Vaal Reap, though, you could probably get away with it this league. You can probably get away with it. Let's be real. If you're struggling, though, just go follow the Maxroll article. Okay, please read the article. It's gonna help you out so much if you're struggling. Last important thing, kind of mentioned it before, but this build eventually is a divine flesh build. That means you need to have 85 chaos resistance. That also means if you're farming red altars and you're divine flesh, you need to overcap your chaos res or read that fucking altar and not click that, or you are gonna die all the time. If you're at 85 chaos res and you click a minus 50 chaos res altar, half the elemental damage that you're taking, you'll be taking on as 30 resistance. You're just gonna die and you're gonna say, oh my god, I played champion and champion's not even that tanky. Okay, don't just, it's not that bad, okay? It's really not that bad to read an altar mod. Yeah, anyways, Maxroll article. There's a second Maxroll article for the endgame version of Corrupting Fever Champ. That's the one that'll have the rare wand, okay? It's gonna be a different setup, gonna be a little bit more involved, a lot more expensive, a couple more upgrades, and that's gonna allow you to get way more damage, okay? League starter one, it's gonna cap out at 2 milli without the Vaal Reap. I don't know what the Vaal Reap damage is gonna add, okay? It's 2 milli without Vaal Reap. The endgame one hits like 7 plus, okay? You got so many upgrades you can make, especially once you head on over and get a rare wand. But you'll have to keep an eye out for that Maxroll article because I can't cover it all in this league starter, and I would like to milk it out a little bit more. Anyways, let's go check out that POB so that I can add another 20 minutes to this video. All right, let's quickly go over absolutely everything in the POB, starting with the leveling trees. This is just going to be really generic splitting steel leveling stuff. So you come out, you get the 2-hand, you get the physical attack damage, you're gonna get all res, evasion rating, and stuff like that. Past this level, you're gonna rush Hatchet Master. This is really baller. You get Onslaught on Kill, makes you faster. You get Rage, makes you faster. You kind of just gotta rush that. Aside from that, you're just gonna pick up the damage. You're gonna get 40 damage with skills that cost life. You're gonna add life tap to your Helix, so you don't have to be spamming a Mana Flask that much. And the big thing here is for your normal lab, you're gonna take first to strike, last to fall. If you've never leveled Corrupting Fever Champion before, this is kind of a little cool technique, some neat stuff that you get to do right away. But you're gonna purchase Corrupting Fever and you're gonna just look at its cost, right? You're gonna do some mental math and see whether it costs 50% of your life or not. And you want it to be like 50, 51% so that you immediately go to the low life state and then you get 20 seconds of adrenaline, which makes you way faster, do way more damage, and take less physical damage. It's really, really nice. And you recover 25% life instantly. So you're only ever really taking yourself down to 75% life, and then you can just press your life flask. and you're much better off for it. It's kind of like a really, really, really good thing to do, okay? So make sure you're doing that. Then you're just going to start rushing towards Resolute Technique, some more axe nodes. The Cannibalistic Rite is really good. You get 2% life on kill. You get reduced life cost, so you got to do a little more balancing with Corrupting Fever, really. You're going to be swapping it from like a 2-link with life tap to a 3-link. You know, you do Brutality and Efficacy, or Brutality, Swift Affliction, depending on colors and stuff like that. And sometimes when you pick up stuff like this with the reduced life cost, you're going to take a link out and you put life tap back on. You shouldn't have to juggle it too much, but yeah, it's just something you pay attention to, really. And then you have Blood Rage too, which, if your Corrupting Fever costs like 45% of your life, the Blood Rage, it'll tick, put it on left mouse button, use it 2 times, boom. That should get you to the low life state. I've done that a few times myself. But yep, just rushing Resolute Technique, getting some more stuff. And past that, you're running straight up here for things like Spiritual Aid, which make increases and reductions to minion damage also affect you. It's just some really nice increased damage that you'll be using if you don't get a Poet's Pen. Now, for your second lab, for Cruel Lab, you're getting the attack speed, armor, and can't be stunned while affected by Fortify. It doesn't really matter to do your Cruel Lab right away because you're not going to have Fortified at all. So you could just wait until Merc Lab and then knock both of those out at the same time. So that's exactly what you'll do right before you swap to Corrupting Fever. And you see we filled the tree out a little bit. We've got this stuff over here, Arcane Capacitor. You need to pick this up for the Mana Mastery before you swap so that you have enough room for all your auras. Same with picking up stuff like Sovereignty. And then, we're just filling out our tree some more. We come over to Scion. We're getting the physical damage skills that cost life, right? This is when you're doing the CF swap. So you're going to unspec things like attack damage and the 2-hand damage and the stuff over here, right? You respec those with the free regrets you get while leveling because you're not Helix anymore. And you instead put all those points over here to get Multi, physical damage, some regen, some Scion Life, Iron Will, stuff like that. It's pretty simple for the CF swap. Pretty easy trees, just generic stuff. Like I said, for the skills, it's going to be Splitting Steel. You're getting stuff like Precision, so you have enough accuracy till Resolute Technique. War Banner, the Totem, Frostblink, Leap Slam with faster attacks, which you now get at level 8, by the way. It's pretty baller. Level 12, so right at Mervale, you're going to walk in that cave. You get a waypoint. Just take the waypoint back. You pick up Spectral Helix, and then you have Chance to Bleed and faster attacks linked to that, since you get faster attacks at level 8 now. It's a pretty good pickup. For your curse, you'll get this in Act 3. It'll be Poacher's Mark. It's just life and mana on hit, and it gives you a little flat. It's really, really nice. And same exact stuff as before. You're still going to have Leap Slam, War Banner, Ancestral Protector, Precision until you hit Resolute Technique. And in Act 2, you get Skitter Bots and Herald of Ash. So those will be your level 16 pickups. You'll have to buy one of these with an Alteration Orb, but it's not so bad. I recommend getting Herald of Ash right away. Makes it feel really cool, and if you have an MTX, it feels even faster. From level 33 to Corrupting Fever swap, this is what you're going to use. So Helix, Faster Attack, Life Tap is just really nice to have on Life Tap, especially since you're getting all of the life cost stuff. So 30 damage with skills that cost life. Before you made the swap, remember, you also picked up this Mastery for another 40 damage with skills that cost life. So while other links may add more damage, this also has the added benefit of all those other things, and you don't have to press a Mana Flask. It's pretty snazzy. Aside from those main links, the only other big change here is putting Determination in once you get enough reservation efficiency. Same with Herald of Purity, just for a little more damage. And your Corrupting Fever setup. So this is after Normal Lab. So you just, you link whatever you can to hit 50% life cost. So a lot of the time you're going to have Life Tap here. Maybe, right away you don't do Life Tap. Instead you do like Corrupting Fever Efficacy or, Corrupting Fever Efficacy Brutality. But when you need to increase that life cost a lot, you got boosted all the way. Stuff like Life Tap or Second Wind come in handy because Life Tap has a 300% cost multiplier. Second Wind has a 200% cost multiplier. So you just make sure you're doing those. And as soon as you can, when you do Library or once you hit Act 6, really it should be before that, you need to pick up Exsanguinate, Reap, and you're already leveling your Corrupting Fever, so that should be fine. But you really, 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 really want to get an Exsanguinate and a Reap. And if you can, you want to try to buy a Vaal Reap. These should be pretty cheap. You can probably just go on the trade site and get one for 1 chaos. because people are going to be doing side areas and they're going to drop them from a side area. Other than that, you should be leveling your auras as well, right? They're all here. You can level all of these in an offhand respec, or not a respec, but you just level them in your offhand, right? So grab some dumb weapon, right? Grab an armor ES shield that has 2 red, 1 blue. And then grab like a mace that has 3 red. You just keep your eyes out in the vendor. It should cost like 2 transmutes. You shouldn't be chroming. You shouldn't be socketing. You just keep your eyes peeled and you pick up whatever you can and put these gems in there. The most important though being the 2 spells, Exsanguinate and Reap. But yeah, that's the whole thing, man. It's just Helix, except you also use Corrupting Fever to proc Adrenaline. As far as like the early gear, I mean, literally, you should just be doing not the wand recipe, but the weapon recipe. So you're gonna vendor a rustic sash, rare if you can. Easy way to do that is to essence it. So you just do like a random crappy essence. It'll be like Wailing of Woe. You essence a rustic sash, which you can buy from the vendor, and then you buy whatever the highest level axe that you can is, as long as it's not one of the ones that looks kind of like a scythe, okay? You don't use those. But the Despot axe, the double axe, things like that, you should be using for sure. And the ones that have like the damage over time multiplier for bleeding, that's another good base. Even though you're not taking advantage of that dot multi, it's just a good base. You don't use stuff like Headsman axe. That stuff kind of sucks. But yeah, you just vendor the rustic sash, rare rustic sash with that weapon that you bought from a vendor and a blacksmith whetstone, and you're gonna get back increased physical damage on that weapon. And you just do that, right? Level 24 with the Despot axe, or the double axe, you do that. Whatever it is for the Despot, you can do at like 27 or something if you miss the double axe. Then again, until you hit Act 9 and you do the Corrupting Fever swap. You're just going to have to do that, 4 or 5 times. So just don't sell your blacksmith whetstones. From level 33 onwards, I mean, there's the hemophilia here, but you can even do white maps without hemophilia. So don't feel pressured or don't feel like you have to buy these right away. But if you can, then buy them, right? They're pretty good, man. It's bleed chance, you get explosions and stuff like that. And that's you're just doing the vendor recipe all the way until you can swap to Corrupting Fever. And for Corrupting Fever swap, some stuff that's super easy to pick up. We're gonna do the early game now. Leveling's all done. I mean, it's pretty chill. It's just Helix, right? You go fast. For the Corrupting Fever swap though, the number one thing you want, well, okay, the number 1 and 2 is gonna be a wand with physical to spells, and if you can, get Fizz.multi, right? And you're gonna want a Mark of Submission. If you can get these 2 items and, a +1 shield, which should be pretty cheap too, +1 Fizz. If you get those, you're totally fine for white maps. Now, if you can also pick up Hemophilia, now you're really fine for white and yellow maps. You're starting to ball out. You're going to have those explosions. It's going to feel a lot better. The build is 100% playable without hemophilia. You just would eventually want them. I've cleared through white maps without these. And I've cleared through white maps without Poet's Pen and hemophilia. You just need to make sure that you get a good enough rare wand, which would be +1 Fizz. And if you can, you craft Fizz.multi, or you get it with Fizz.multi and you craft something like damage over time. Now, if Poet's Pen and hemophilia are cheap, then you should buy those as soon as you can. Now, that means you're probably not getting enough currency just from hitting BA, right? You're going to have like 2 chaos, 6 fusings. You can't do much haggling. What you can do is you can do a little bit of heisting if you really want to make your progression super free, super easy, super quick. You can do a little bit of heisting. You can do whatever, okay? The heist is just the easiest thing. Let's say you do some heist. You got some money. You're ready to push. You buy Poet's Pen, you buy hemophilia, and then you have a Mark of Submission and a +1 shield. And now you're blasting. You are absolutely blasting. Just make sure when you use Poet's Pen, you put your Reap, your Exsanguinate, or excuse me, your Vaal Reap, your Exsanguinate, and your Controlled Destruction or Brutality. Whichever one. They're both the exact same damage. It's just whatever your third color is. It'll probably be blue, right? So you just like 2 red your wand for 25 chromes on the crafting bench. And that third socket should be blue because it's an int base. So that's the PP setup. That's it. There's just 2 different skill gem setups. So let's say you don't have Poet's Pen. You're going to have a 4-link Reap. These are the big changes between the Poet's Pen and the non-Poet's Pen. Non-Poet's Pen, 4-link Reap, and a Storm Brand. With Poet's Pen, you have Exsanguinate, Reap, and Brutality / Controlled Destruction in your Poet's Pen, and you no longer need that Storm Brand. Remember when I talked about the 10 stacks of Corrupting Fever, like 2 minutes ago in the video? You need to have Storm Brand without Poet's Pen because you are going to be self-casting Reap, which is just not hitting frequent enough to hit 10 stacks of Corrupting Fever. But when you are hitting with Kinetic Blast with Poet's Pen, right? Because that's all you have to do. All you got to do is KB. You're hitting with the KB. Your Exsanguinate is also hitting, and your Reaps are also being cast out. So you don't need the Storm Brand anymore with the Poet's Pen setup. So let's go back to the no PP. That's it. The auras are going to be the same. You, on both builds, put Vulnerability in your ring. You've got Shield Charge, Faster Attacks, and Life Tab. You're always going to use KB, Life Tab, GMP, and Pierce. And then you have Blood Rage, Molten Shell. It's just whether or not you have a Reap in a 4-link with Stormbrand or not. All right, so here you got Corrupting Fever, put it in a 5-link when you can. You cannot 6-link Corrupting Fever. You can't do it. It will cost too much life, no matter what. It will always cost way too much. So 5-link is all you've got to worry about on your body armor, which is pretty nice. You get to put your money elsewhere. Here we have Molten Shell with Inspiration. You can just swap this out for Life Tab. If it doesn't cast, I'm just going to do that anyways. I should. It's some weird min-max I was trying to do where I was like, oh, technically, Molten Shell is the only ability that we have that requires mana. And so if I put Inspiration here, it will cost enough and we will save ourselves 60 life every time. It doesn't matter. Somebody's going to comment about it in YouTube and I'm just going to lose my mind. No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm okay. I'm all right. All the auras are the same. Boom, boom, boom. You got Blood Rage. You got all that. That's the Poet's Pen stuff. So let's go for the Corrupting Fever swap. So this is the CF swap with no PP, no Poet's Pen. This is the mid-game setup. All right. I'm going to keep the PP and the no PP trees the exact same. There are some small min-max you can do, but it is pretty unnecessary. Anyways, that is early game. That should be all the way until, late yellow, early red maps. Now for mid game, the big thing here is going to be your cluster jewels. You really are cluster jewel. You really, really, really want to try to pick up an 8 passive fizz. And if you need help with the item level, how to craft it and all that, check out the Maxroll article. It just makes it super easy, all the crafting of all this stuff. But you're going to want an 8 passive fizz with 3 notables. Ideally, you would just do Jagged Fossils until you hit this. Now, when you're poor and you've got nothing, just buy a base and get 2 notables. That's fine. Just get 2 of them, man. You're going to miss out on like 20% physical damage. It's like 23% physical damage. That's totally fine. Where you can have 2 notables and now you can buy a better rare jewel. You could buy a better shield. You can upgrade your other gear and you'll be much better off versus having that one base, trying to spend all of your currency to try to hit 3 notables, never hitting it, and then you're stuck with a really crappy large cluster and you have no currency for anything else. So I would always just do 2 notables first, and then you buy a second base later on that you roll for 3 notables so that you always at least have a 2 notable large cluster. All right, that's big. Then you want to be purchasing rare jewels. There's a rare jewel modifier trade link on the Maxroll article you can use. Otherwise, you can just make your own, all right? But I mean, I did it all for you, so just go check that out, okay? Linked down below. But yeah, you just get rare jewels. If you can get global fizz and fizz.multi, that's big. Double dot multi is fine. There's a bunch of options. You just buy jewels and get as many damage mods on that jewel as possible. All right, F life, just get damage. But that's the big thing there is you drop Spiritual Aid, you're getting a cluster, and you're starting to just get as much damage as you possibly can out of that cluster through jewel sockets. Same here. You got a jewel socket here, you got another one here, and you got one more here. You're just trying as much as you can to get jewels that have damage mods because that is where you get a lot of the damage from this build. A lot of it. So make sure you're not just buying 1 damage mod jewels. Now here in the mid game, there's Sappho's Frame. To be honest, you don't need Sappho's Frame. If you want more damage, you can just get a shield, right? Keep that ES shield that you had that has +1 level of Fizz spell on it. That's totally fine. You can even get one that has spell damage so that it scales your Reap. Right, it'll scale your Reap. It'll scale your Exsanguinate a little bit. It's pretty nice. It won't do anything for Corrupting Fever though, but that's fine because most of your damage is going to be like a Vaal Reap. Now, if you want to be a little tankier, you want to have an easier time gearing, get all res, get max res, have some spell block. Sappho's Frame's really nice. And having Sappho's Frame here will allow you to gear all your other pieces a little more comfortably. So that's pretty snazzy. The next big thing is going to be the Doriani Invitation Belt. These are a little expensive, but it's really good because you get Fizz Leech. When you don't have this, see, this is where a lot of the build starts to come together, right? You're getting some damage, you're getting your Leech. It's going to be a little more comfortable. It's going to be a lot more comfortable. Without this, you really only have like, you know, some amount of regen. You have like 400 to 500 regen, which really isn't going to be enough to comfortably cast all of your abilities and be able to get some of those resources back after you've cast them and a monster hits you, right? You're going to be relying on your Life Flask a lot until you get Fizz Leech. When you look at these belts up, make sure you look a Doriani Invitation Belt up that has Global Fizz, because there's ones for lightning. It'll say increase lightning damage, and then lightning damage leeches life. Cold leech. You got to get Global Fizz and Fizz Leech. It's super important. You can't get this mod anywhere else other than a Glorious Vanity, but you're not going to have access to that for quite some time. There's a couple other spots, but they're very unrealistic for League Start, whereas this is a Edziri drop. So all the little noob lords running at Zero, you're going to be able to sell this. I think last league it was like 50, 60C. It's worth it, man. The build is so much more comfortable with this on. So just make sure you scoop that up. As far as rare gear goes, just try to get some Chaos Res where you can. Obviously, Ellie Res and Life. But the big things here are going to be like Pierce, an extra Pierce on your helmet. If you're still going to use, I think having Pierce in your links is the way to go. Rue puts like faster attacks in there. Having one Pierce is just, it feels bad, man. It's not the way. So I just use Pierce support. So the one extra here isn't that big a deal, since we already have 4. So instead you could craft like Fizz taken as fire here if you'd like. But on your helmet implicits, you do Fizz taken as fire, vulnerability. Your body armor, you do aura effect and malevolence. You don't do determ. You do malevolence here, and then you do the Gravicious Fizz taken as fire and lightning on your body armor. For your boots, just try to do the avoid being chilled craft. If you want, you can also do, if you don't really care that much, maybe you upgraded your Brine King, so you have 50 reduced effective chill, and it doesn't have that much. You could do onslaught on kill here, but I mean, you have a silver flask. It's just, it kind of helps maintain the onslaught buff, because sometimes your flask will go down. You won't kill enough monsters to get enough charges to use it, but you'll have triggered the 20% onslaught on kill, and then you can move to the next pack. It's whatever, but generally the avoid being chill will be nicer. The big thing here, +1 Fizz and anointing acrimony. This is really easy. It's a super cheap anointment. 2 black oils will probably cost you 4 to 6 chaos for 15 dot multi. That's an extra like 6 to 7% of your damage. That's really good, man. So just spend like 6 chaos on a +1 amulet. Try to get any other stats on this as well. Stuff like int, life, res, dex even is really nice. But instead of +1 Fizz, you can also get like 18, 20 dot multi. Something like that will be really good too. Both of those are pretty close together in damage, so just try to get any one of those damage mods, +1 Fizz or dot multi on your amulet. For your rings, I opted to have the 3rd suffix, so you have 2 res and a life, or 1 res and a stat and life. For that 3rd suffix, I really like the reduced effective shock ring craft. And that's because what you can do for shock is you can go Garukin for 60 reduced effective shock. And then you can, on your boots, I believe, you can do 40% reduced effect of shock and chill. I think it's shock and chill, or that might be gloves. It might just be shock on the boots. And then you can be shock immune. I don't know why I did the quotes, but you'll be shock immune on your boots. Everybody's going to be farming red altars, all right? I changed teams, okay? Blue altars suck on League Start. Dude, nobody's going to farm blue altars on League Start, okay? Everyone will do red altars, and when you're doing red altars, you're going to be coming up on a lot of fire damage, which means many ignites. More than that, though, it's going to be that annoying burning ground altar mod. So you really want to upgrade your Abrath to become unaffected by burning ground, in addition to the less duration of ignites on you, which means you have to solve shock somewhere else. So on this, I opted for the 2 ring mods since we don't have access to gloves. There's other ways you can do it, but this is a pretty easy one where you don't have to give up any damage, right? You don't have to give it up on jewels. You don't have to do anything crazy there, so that you can just have your jewels just be double or triple damage mods. And then flask, man, it's the same. All right, every flask, every build is like using the same flask, okay? You get armor, evasion, reduced effective curses, and you can have this be regen. You can have it be move or attack speed. If you're not Poet's Pen yet, you can have it be cast speed. But you get those mods on a granite, jade, quicksilver, and silver flask. And then you have your life flask with bleed removal and, you know, any of the decent mods. It can be 50% of recovery rate applied instantly. It can be this one right here where instant recovery on low life. It could be, I wouldn't do the instant one. I would always try to have like some amount recovered over time. This one's really nice though, because of the corrupting fever, you know, dropping your life. And sometimes you get chunked after that. So you can just press the life flask and boom, you get like 2k life instantly. It's really, really nice. But that is mid-game and mid-game gems, mid-game tree. So next is the last gear set. So you got, remember, you go endgame, endgame, and then endgame tree. So let's start with the tree. The big, huge change here is going to be Divine Flesh. Divine Flesh, better than ever this league, because they've added these masteries, which are just absolutely bonkers. Okay, having these 2 armor ES masteries is so wild. I can't believe they did that. So this build right now has like 70k armor. So 10% of your armor also applies to chaos damage from hits. Now that only means like 7,000 armor, but that's still really nice, right? An extra 7,000 armor against chaos damage when you already have 85 chaos res is really, really nice. Especially if you're farming red altars and you're getting stuff like Fizz's extra chaos, it's going to come in clutch. And especially since we're Divine Flesh and half of elemental damage is taken as chaos, right? That's big, man. That's huge. So you're just, now you have armor working against elemental damage. And since only half the LE damage hit is coming as chaos, it's a little bit smaller than it otherwise would be. Then you also have 10 Fizz taken as chaos, which is just, it's sick. This jewel here, energized armor, is actually huge. Increase in reductions to ES applied armor at 200% value. Without this jewel, you go to 56,000 armor. So this thing is literally adding 13k armor just for taking this jewel. It's really good. It's so good, dude. It's actually so good. But the endgame tree is kind of just filling stuff out past the Divine Flesh and energized armor swap. You're coming over here and getting like skill effect duration. So this is a level 96 tree. You're getting some skill effect duration, which helps keep your corrupting fever on the monsters as well as on yourself. Helps with some, I think it helps with blood charges as well. But it's overall just really nice to have on the build. But yeah, other than that, there's not really going to be much more in the end game. You kind of just get a few extra points to play around with and do a little bit more with them. As far as endgame gems go, you're just going to want to have a level 20 corrupting fever. You probably should have bought that already. But yeah, you get 21 main gem, 20 on all the supports. And then you can have like level 21 auras. For the end game, you're going to drop the Mark of Submission at this point. And you're going to self-cast your vulnerability because your gear is so strict with how much chaos res you're going to need for Divine Flesh. You have to open up that ring slot, right? You can't just have a ring that has a unique with nothing on it, right? Mark of Submission is literally just an unset ring. It's got to go. It's got to go. So you have to self-cast your vulnerability, which is fine. It's not that big a deal at all. And then Pride Malevolence. War Banner. Make sure you add War Banner to your build once you do Uber Lab. We didn't talk about that, but Champ gets a free banner. So you just put War Banner on there and it's what, like 10% damage or something? It's pretty nice. Oh, geez. With all the aura effect, it's like 18% damage. It's really good, man. Yeah, you just scoop it up. Bing bong. You kind of need it. As far as PP goes, I mean, it's same PP. You have Saffles. everything else is just going to be a little bit more strict with like your res needs, right? So I have the exact same gear here, except in this, you have to kind of give up that shock stuff, which kind of sucks. I'll putz around with it. You could just have like a little more restrictive gear, and then you can still have the reduced effect of shock here. But if anything, if you can't get that crafted on your rings and do that, you can go Garukin and like get it on one ring, or you know, you get it on like a 1 jewel mod, you get reduced effective shock. So you have like a damage mod and then that, or you have 2 damage mods and then that. You just give up one of your damage mods, but you do have to do something for shock. So it just depends on like how strict your gear is and what you can get away with. But other than that, it's really just a divine flesh swap for the end game setup. Now your damage at this point, you're going to be tanky, right? You're going to be big. This is big, okay? It's huge. You got leech and all that too. With all that armor stuff, working against chaos, divine flesh, max res, all that, you're going to be really tanky. But for this setup, you're not going to have that much damage. Vaal Reap will help a lot. You'll be able to self-cast your Vaal Reap. It'll probably get you to 2.5 milli, something like that. But for the real damage, you're going to have to go to the Maxroll Article for the endgame version, which is where you swap to a rare wand and you start self-casting your Reap. We talked about it a little bit in the video, but that's where the big damage starts to get unlocked, because you can get another +1/+1 and dot multi, and then you're getting somewhat right. You're really starting to ramp up the damage, but it's just not worth it to do until you have everything else, right? Post pen is just so powerful early on. But yeah, anyways, that's Ruse CF Champ. Like, sub, comment if you're playing this, and I'll catch you guys on League Start, all right? Peace, homies.